guys, OtterPop here. It has been quite a while since I did an OtterVlog. I mean, I just felt like I kind of stopped doing them. Maybe I should do them, maybe at least like once a month, just to kind of like, update people on some progress on some things, because things do happen in my life, and this last like few weeks, last month or so, are definitely no exception. Where's a good place to start off? Ooh, I know. Did you know that I just got back from trip? I would have said vacation, except it maybe didn't quite feel like a vacation in some cases. My sister and I actually left the country once again. Not too far this time. We did not go to Portugal this time or anything like that. We didn't even go to Hawaii. No, we went to Mexico City, Mexico. And it kind of made sense. It was, in terms of flight costs, it was kind of the cheapest in terms of where mom and dad were going to be, because they're still gallivanting around the world, although now they're in like South America this past year. Like they've been to Argentina and Chile and Colombia, and I think they were in Ecuador as well, and they were in Brazil for a couple of months too. So they've kind of been going around, but currently, and for the last few weeks and for just like another week or two, they're in Mexico City, Ciudad de Mexico. So my sister and I ended up going to Mexico City for a little I guess vacation. We were only staying there for like 7 days, I think it was, or just right around there. Like, we ended up getting to Mexico City this past Monday, not this past Monday, but the Monday before, Monday evening, and then we got back to Colorado in this past Monday, in like the afternoon. And there were a lot of things that happened. There were a lot of places that we went in the 6 full days at the very least that we had there. I mean, we went to Teotihuacán, which is a huge historical heritage related site. I mean, the sun and the moon temples there, and just all the history that they have there from, I don't believe it was the Aztec period. I think or maybe it was the Aztec period or shortly thereafter. But in any case, it's a site very close to Mexico City, and it's got a lot of history behind it. My family and I managed to snag a lot of really cool pictures of that place. We also went to the Palacio de Chapultepec, which sounds like a mouthful, and it kind of is, but basically it was the old presidential palace. Because it's moved a little bit more into like the inner city itself. But the Palacio de Chapultepec is within one of the largest parks, one of the largest urban parks on the continent. And it's a very nice castle. It's a very nice palace. It's, I think, one of the only few like castles in either the whole country or just in the state. Because, Mexico does actually have states, like the United States. But the Palacio de Chapultepec did get converted to like a history museum over time, and there's a lot of really cool stuff, and certain views around the castle itself. You get some really cool views of the park and the city. Like it's absolutely crazy. And another fun fact too is that, because being in Colorado, being in Fort Collins, I'm quite a bit above normal altitude. I'm only like 5,000 feet, give or take. How many meters is that? A little over 1,500 meters. Had to Google it real quick. Trying to translate feet to meters is it's really freaking annoying. I mean, I can't do it off the top of my head. I've never been able to do that off the top of my head. Now, Fahrenheit to Celsius and vice versa, that I can do pretty fine. But feet to meters, not so much. But so here in Fort Collins, our elevation is, I think, just under 5,000 feet or around 1,500 meters. But the average altitude in Mexico is, well, in Mexico City at the very least, is about like 7,000 feet. So it's a good 2,000 feet higher. And I will admit that the altitude did take me a little bit of time to get used to, because my body is acclimated to, right where we are in Colorado. It's acclimated to a lot of, the flat land and the foothills of Colorado. Like, my body's very acclimated to that. But to go an extra 2,000 feet, my body needed some time to acclimate, and that was definitely apparent in the first 3 to 4 days. Whenever we were traveling around, whether it was on the metro and not the subway, because it's referred to as the Metro because half of it's underground and the other half is above ground, so it's technically not a subway, it's technically a metro. But between the Ubers, between the metro, between the buses, my motion sickness was absolutely awful. I mean, I was having headaches and nausea so much. I had to consume so much water and that still didn't help. I tried to take some anti-nausea medication and some, you know, like ginger candy type stuff, and that still didn't fully help. Yeah, sometimes, you know, chewing gum, like, you know, spearmint gum, which I don't know why. I hate mint. I hate mint with a burning passion. But spearmint, I can tolerate, and I have no idea why. But even chewing spearmint gum didn't completely help. It did help a little bit, but I was still having a lot of problems those first like 4 days or something like that. So that aspect was not fun because the first few days especially we were traveling a lot. I'd say some of the early days had some of the most intense travel. I actually think it was the Tuesday, the first full day that we were there. I think it was was it Tuesday or Wednesday we went to Teotihuacán? I don't remember for sure, but in any case, that was a long bus ride that was not super fun. I honestly thought that I was gonna throw up on the way back. It was that rough. The heat did not help. The heat and the humidity in Mexico City, even in late October, early November, not super pleasant. It's tolerable, but for somebody who was born and raised in the Midwest, who is very used to cold temperatures, no. Speaking of which, I'm getting really warm. I do also remember that one of the early days too, we ended up going on this this boat tour because there's some of these canals in Mexico City, and boat tours are pretty common among them. And then as you're kind of going along for like an hour, 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours along these canals, there will be other boats with vendors that will try and sell some stuff to you. Mostly, you know, food related stuff, but it's still kind of neat. And we had an interesting party boat tour. I believe our guide's name was Miguel, and he radiated like gayish energy. He absolutely did. He was an absolute doll. He was such a sweetheart, and he spoke really good English. He spoke very good English. And by the way, our Teotihuacan guide, he was doing like the Spanglish thing. He was kind of going back and forth. So like sometimes you could understand him, but other times you couldn't. And for somebody who doesn't know any Spanish, oh boy. But no, Miguel was great, and it was such a fun little boat tour. There weren't too many vendors that came up alongside us, probably because it was like the middle of the week or something like that. But you should have seen the other boats. There were not many people on any of the other boat tours, and they were all just chill. They were all just like, you know, chilling, just like, you know, sitting on a boat. No. We had like 12 people on our boat. We were pretty much full. And we had all kinds of snacks. We had margaritas. We had music. We had all the decorations and stuff. It was an actual party boat. We're trying to think. I might just place an image of kind of generally what the boat looked like. It doesn't look like much, but believe it or not, they're very cool boats. They're very small. They're just canal boats. They're meant to have larger groups of people, meant to kind of, you know, mosey along through canals. They're really cool. And there was music blasting pretty much the entire time. It was freaking great. And I'm pretty sure that everybody else was staring at our boat, a little bit jealous. It was great though. I mean, I didn't engage too much because, you know, social interaction, not really my thing, but man, did I have a lot of fun. It was it was pretty nice. I did get a little bored sometimes, only because, you know, people in that kind of situation do make me a little bit anxious, but you know what? I still had some fun. It's all good. And then of course the food, like, I gotta say, the food, like, they know how to do food in Mexico City. And like they I don't even know what I would class. Like, you hear Mexican food, you probably think like, you know, tacos, quesadillas and stuff like that, but there's so much more to it. And they know how to prepare meals. They have all these amazing combinations, and their bakeries, their panaderias, there used to be this panaderia that was a few blocks from where my best friend lived in Lincoln, and I loved their stuff. It was a slight bit out of my way if I was ever going to work or to school, but every now and then I would pop by that little panaderia and just grab a couple little things for maybe, you know, breakfast that day, maybe later in the day, maybe the next day too, because they got some good stuff. And I tried a couple new things related to their bakery. Oh, so good, man. I don't know what it is about Mexicans and their bakeries, but they know how to do bakeries. It's so much better than any of the shit you get in the US. It's so good. I can't even remember what... I can't remember what some of this stuff is called. Again, everything was in Espanol. So I don't really remember a lot of the names of things. Like, although it is funny, because the longer I was in Mexico City, the more I was picking up little random phrases and words that I had learned years ago. Not a lot, but definitely a little bit. Which again is interesting because I'm not the kind of person who's really good with mastering language at all. I'm a visual learner. I'm not an auditory learner. And when it comes to speaking another language, auditory learning is almost crucial to like better retaining it. And I just don't have that capacity. It's very hard for me. Granted, if I say the same thing over and over again and associate it with specific action or word or something along those lines in English, then there's a much better chance that I'll be able to actually remember it. But there was just so much of it, man. I mean, luckily I was, with the limited that knowledge that I did have on Spanish, and with mom and dad helping, of course, because they've been able to pick up even more Spanish since, you know, they've been all around South America. But even with my very, very limited, kind of broken Spanish, I was still able to largely deduce what was happening in terms of, you know, payment, or, you know, ordering food, or learning about the sites and the architecture and the museums and stuff like that. I was able to pick up little bits and pieces. What's also interesting too is that in Europe, so many of their museums will have, you know, all museums have signs associated with specific, you know, dioramas, exhibitions, stuff like that. And in Europe, a lot of those signs are in two different languages, the native local language and English. Mexico? Not the same thing. There were a number of museums with lots of signs that only had Spanish, not English. Even for some of like the more highly rated tourist attractions, so many of them did not have English. I'd say of all the signs that I saw in all of like the museums and tours and exhibitions and whatnot, 75 to 80% of them were Spanish only. And like all the individual signs, not each of the sites or anything, like all the individual signs, like upwards of 80% of them were Spanish only. And that kind of ruined the immersion a little bit, but at the same point, I could still gather what I needed to, and I'm kind of more of like, you know, a visual learner anyways, but it would have been nice to have context, you know? And then there was the second to last day, which was Saturday, November 2nd. And oh boy, was that a day from good and bad reasons. That Saturday, November 2nd in particular, was probably one of the big reasons that my sister and I ended up going down to Mexico City, because that was the day of Dia de los Muertos. I mean, technically the first and the second, because, you know, they have events. But holy shit, Mexico is so prideful and so passionate about their Dia de los Muertos. It's probably bigger than Christmas. You know, the decorations and stuff that I was seeing remind me so much of all like the Christmas related decorations that I saw in Portugal. Like, what was it? Just 2 years ago? Yeah. Wait, no. Yeah. 2 years ago. Wait, 3. 2 or 3 years ago, when my sister and I went to Portugal for about 2 weeks, in, I want to say, mid-November. Or early to mid-November, Christmas decorations galore. Like, oh my god, they care about Christmas. No. I won't say that Mexico with Dia de los Muertos puts that to shame, but it's pretty close, because they love that holiday so much. We're talking skulls, like the sugar type skulls everywhere. Some that are even like almost as tall as me, though that big. And they have marigold everywhere. Marigold is huge for them for Dia de los Muertos. I mean, even the few nights beforehand, in the apartment building where my mom and dad were staying, they have all these, you know, just simple like flower pots or plant pots or something like that. Well, with about a few days before Dia de los Muertos kicked off, all of them were suddenly decorated with a crap ton of marigold, just out of nowhere. They were just ordinary pot plants and potted plants, and they already had like some kind of like plants in them, and they were just, you know, simple outdoor decorations, like big pots. But then all of a sudden, marigolds in every single one of them. Like, not even just a few. We're talking like a dozen or more in each pot. They love their holiday. Not to mention the alebrijes. They're like all the markets that we went to, all the stalls that we saw. So many alebrijes. And if you don't know what an alebrijes is, alebrije is. Alebrijes is plural. Alebrije is singular. Now, if you don't know what alebrijes are, watch Coco. And by the way, I cannot tell you how many people were so prideful of that movie as well. There were multiple, there had to have been almost a dozen people in the span of a week who were proclaiming Coco as this masterpiece, as a perfect representation of their culture and of Dia de los Muertos. So many people. Dude, Mexico loves that movie. Mexico loves Coco. I can see why. It's a pretty great movie. But yes, it did all culminate in the Dia de los Muertos parade, which I believe is like a 5 or 6 kilometer route parade. And wow, I mean, the actual parade itself only lasted an hour and a half, which, by the way, so many cool things that were passing by, like related to the alebrijes, to the Catarinas, which kind of similar to the design of like La Muerte from the Book of Life. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but that's also a pretty great movie. And just so many people in so many different kinds of costumes, all the bands that were even large ones that were synced up so well with all their music. Even like middle schoolers in high school, even elementary kids in some cases. It was actually pretty cool. But at the same point, there was a lot of people, and we're all almost packed together like sardines. Like, we have to be very careful, otherwise we're gonna lose some footing and somebody's gonna lose balance and all hell is gonna break loose. And on both sides of the street. I mean, we're talking kilometers upon kilometers of people just packing the streets, just watching the Dia de los Muertos parade go by. And it was really hard for me because as much as I enjoyed some aspects of it, there are some points where I just had to like sit down and just kind of stare at the floor and just kind of do like breathing exercises, because that kind of contact with people, that kind of intensity for that long makes me extremely anxious. I tend to have different reactions depending on the circumstances, but in cases like that, where I'm surrounded by so many people so closely for so long, it makes me like physically and emotionally numb. Like, I'm just staring. So that part was not exactly like, and here's the thing, I was debating too if I was even gonna go, because I was nervous about how I was gonna react. I was nervous that I was gonna be miserable, and that in turn I would make my family miserable. And unfortunately, my family did not give me too much support on that front. Like, my dad kind of took a bit of a neutral stance. He wasn't as active in that particular conversation. But my mom and, unfortunately, my sister as well, didn't seem to take my concerns very seriously. And that stung. That stung a lot. But I was debating about going, and like 10-15 minutes, like I was still undecided. But shortly before, I finally decided, okay, I will go. Now, I wasn't miserable. Technically I wasn't miserable. But it was, and it was cool. But it was still really rough. And by the time the parade had finished, which I think was not even quite an hour and a half, funny enough, I thought it would have been longer. We all thought it would have been longer. But after it finished, I just remember feeling really numb, and I was like, I want to go home. Constantly through my head, I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home. It probably sounds very childish and kind of ridiculous, but this is just how I react to social situations. And I do have some kind of social anxiety, and I do think it's getting worse over time. But after the parade commenced, oh my gosh, it started to sprinkle a little bit. That wasn't actually too bad, but the dispersion was just insane. Because if you think about it, Fort Collins has like 60,000 people. Or no, 220,000. 200 something thousand. Mexico City, I kid you not, has 100 times the population. Mexico City's population is over 25 million. That's not even an exaggeration. This city has a population 100 times greater than my own. And it's insane. I mean, we're all trying to, like, you know, get by each other and, like, go through the crowd and stuff. Like, I'm the type of person who will be a bit more patient, who will wait until I have a proper opening. No, don't even bother in Mexico City. Just don't even bother. When you're in a crowd, you just push through. Like people don't apologize to each other. People understand that everybody else is pushing through. Just push through. Don't be the nice person. And definitely don't be numb like I was. Because this is where it gets worse. Because in the span of me trying to, like, you know, stay close to my family and just walking through and following them and just, like, tunnel vision, I don't notice until it's too late that my phone is jacked. Right from my thief-proof purse. My phone got yanked. And the worst part, I had ample time to notice, but I was just so emotionally numb. I didn't until it was too late. And I technically don't have proof, but I know exactly who did it. These two teenage girls, because they were like right now. I was a clear target. I absolutely was. But they were right next to me. One of them had a coat, like this light blue coat, right over her side, so that she could, like, place herself perfectly over me and my purse in a way that I wouldn't see and nobody else would see that she was stealing my phone. And she had a friend with her. And I almost guarantee that the one who actually stole my phone was just the decoy, and she was gonna quickly, as soon as she got the phone, she was gonna hand it off to her friend. And I know it was them. I know it was them. Those two putas. And yes, you know who you are. You absolutely know who you are. So, if I hadn't been so numb, I may have noticed sooner. I may have had my hand over my purse a bit, but I was just too focused on trying to follow my family through the crowd and just get out of there. Like I was dead. My mind was just gone. And my phone got jacked right then and there. Now you'd think, well, that sucks, but at least everything's backed up, right? Guess who's a dumbass? Guess who's a dumbass? Granted, most of the stuff on my phone is like, you know, it's stuff on various apps. That kind of stuff is easy to get because, you know, my Play Store is connected to my YouTube channel account, essentially, which I have easy access to. But all my photos, thousands of photos from over the years of dogs, cats, pets, animals, nature, other past trips that I've taken, like pictures that I've had since I first got a smartphone when I was like maybe 14 years old. Thousands of photos. All of the notes that were on my phone, like, you know, like the Samsung notes, where, you know, I kept information about, like, you know, about some random personal stuff, not like sensitive information, but like just random personal stuff, art stuff, writing stuff, you know, stuff related to travel and things like that. But all my notes, all my photos and videos, all of my contacts, and all of my messages sent from, to and from contacts. All gone. All of it. I lost everything. And it pissed me off. Actually, no. And I wouldn't even say that it pissed me off. I think it's more accurate to say that it hurt me. It really hurt. And I was also disappointed. In part, I was disappointed by myself. That I hadn't been smart about backing up all of my data. Now granted, this is kind of the nice thing about being a social media person, is that you're going to have random images and random notes and stuff posted between various accounts. So like between my Blue Sky, between my YouTube channel, between my Discord server, there's a lot that I have posted. So not all of it was lost, but a very large portion of it was. And that really upset me. Like, it was also upsetting to have my property stolen and my privacy violated like that. It was awful. And I was already kind of having, like, you know, a mixed feelings, rough time with all the travel and the motion sickness issues that I was having to deal with, you know, all the people that I was having to be around. Sometimes, you know, walking around as much as we did, especially in some of that intense heat that my body is not used to because my body overheats easily. Not to mention, I didn't get good sleep any single night that I was there. In part because, you know, there's no AC, like it's all heat and humidity, so it was extremely hard to get very much sleep. I probably got like 60% of the usual sleep that I do every night in Mexico City. So I was already like, as cool as a lot of the sites were, I was already having mixed feelings about a lot of things. And then my phone had to get stolen. And none of it was backed up. And I can't reclaim it. Because in Mexico City, they're not interested in your data. Typically not. I'd say like 90-95% of the time, they don't care about your data. They don't give a shit. And mine was pattern locked anyways. But in Mexico City, what they do want is just the phone. They will take the phone case and just discard it discreetly, randomly on the street, and they will factory reset your phone. And they will just sell it off. So as soon as my phone got jacked, there was no way I was getting it back. And we didn't have any kind of like finder or locator app, because my parents were there and my sister was there too. So maybe if I did have that, I might have been able to try and get it back. I don't know for sure. If I had noticed, like if I'd noticed sooner, if I'd kept my purse more in front of me instead of on my side, if I'd even held my hand over the opening of it. But no. It got stolen. And that whole night, and even kind of the same night that I slept, and even kind of into the morning, was really rough. Because I was hurt and disappointed by so many things. It sucked. It really, really sucked. And it still does. Now granted, I do have a new phone now. I managed to, like, luckily, this happened less than 2 days before my sister and I were supposed to leave, and my sister still had her phone. So we were going to be able to get through the airport and fly back home all fine. I was able to get a new phone the moment we got back to the States. Okay, not the moment we got back to the States. We had to drive up a little bit to, like, you know, the Brighton and Fort Collins area first, and then I got the phone. But I did manage to get a new phone, and I do have things set up so that everything is backed up on the cloud. But, like, so many photos that I'm not going to get back. So many notes that I'm never really going to remember, because that's why I kept the notes, because I needed them. But I don't have those anymore. They're just gone. They're gone for good. And the part that really surprised me too were the messages. Like, I figured even my contacts would have saved. No, they didn't. And, like, that sucks enough, but none of, like, all my previous conversations with anybody, my sister, my grandparents, my parents, my aunt and uncle, like, my best friend, all of those messages are gone. which I wouldn't have expected. I mean, I know I got Google Messages a little bit more recently, because, you know, RCS and stuff like that, because Samsung Messages, it's a bit of a bitch. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. But you'd think that Google Messages would have had some kind of, like, cloud backup. And it didn't. So, all of that is gone. Gotta ask my sister for, but, because, you know, we do have a lot of overlapping content. Most of our contacts are pretty much overlapping. But yeah. So that sucked. Now, luckily, the final day we were there, the final full day we were there, we had a bit more fun. I was a bit more hopeful that maybe that there was some kind of cloud backup for like all my data that I was worried I had lost, which, you know, it is what it is. But the final day, we decided to do something, because Mom and Dad, for the past few years, have been able to have, like, you know, it's all 4 of us, or all 6 of us with our aunt and uncle, but rarely, in so long, have they been able to have one-on-one time with us. So in the morning, I spent it with my dad at the National Museum of Art, and then my sister was with our mom at the aquarium, which was a little bit more geared towards kids, but they didn't realize that. But they still had fun. They still got to see a lot of things. And then, afterwards, we all went to the Museum of Anthropology, which is Mexico City's #1 rated tourist attraction on multiple sites. And I spent the time at the museum with Mom, and my sister was with Dad. So we both got some one-on-one time with the parentals. And I made sure to ask my mom to get loads of good pictures. I'm glad I did. But that museum is huge. Teotihuacán was really cool. The Palacio de Chapultepec, also pretty cool. And like all the little things we did over time. But the Museum of Anthropology is unreal. It's absolutely unreal. I mean, if you've never been there, there are major sections of the museum, which, by the way, is huge. That's probably one of the biggest museums I've ever been to. And I've been to the frickin' Museum of Natural History in New York City. I mean, I've been to like, you know, the museum in Denver, which arguably not as big, but it's still pretty sizable. No, the Museum of Anthropology is absolutely enormous. Holy moly. I mean, we're talking multiple floors, and even like like multiple exhibitions, and they're huge. I mean, we're talking exhibitions on stuff related to history, to like, you know, pottery and decorations, textiles. There was an entire exhibition for textiles, and it covered, I think, multiple floors too. And there was a lot more on, you know, Teotihuacán and Templo Mayor, which is also referred to as Tenochtitlan, which is essentially a set of ruins in the middle of the city. They're trying to preserve it as best they can, and there's a lot of it that is destroyed, unfortunately. Not due to recent history, due to more ancient history, but still, it like. And then just so much on, you know, like ancient human history and animals, maps, dioramas everywhere. It was unreal. That museum is probably one of the coolest places I have ever been to. And I like museums. Shut the fuck up. I like museums, okay? I really like museums, especially if they deal with ancient history, anthropology, stuff like that. This place was amazing. I loved it. I made sure to ask my mom to get lots of great pictures. So, yay. So, as rough as Saturday was, the trip did end with a good note on Sunday. It ended with a really good note. We did have a really good dinner afterwards. And yeah. Then we ended up back home, I got my phone, and that's all she wrote. So, in short, I can't believe I rambled about this for so long, but in short, Mexico City is very cool. It has a lot of cool sites. I mean, the history in that area is unbelievable. But there's a lot of people. The traffic is unlike anything you've ever seen in the States. Like, the US is one thing. The drivers in Mexico and Mexico City terrify me. And at the same time, I trust them completely with my safety. I would never, ever, ever, for any reason at all, drive in Mexico City. Hell no. Absolutely no, 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 no. I would be so scared to drive in Mexico City. I would not even plot myself in a driver's seat in an emergency. I wouldn't. I couldn't. It is terrifying what the traffic looks like down there. It's absolutely unreal. And Mexico City, like, you know, Portugal and Lisbon, it was rich with history, with culture. And Mexico City can kind of be the same, but at the same time, it's also very gritty and a little bit dirty and messy. And, you know, there are times when you might not feel completely safe. I mean, clearly not. I got my phone jacked right after the Dia de los Muertos parade. So, but, again, very cool. A lot of aspects of it are very cool. But I'm not going back there. Ever. And if you're ever going to go to Mexico City, please, please, please get some kind of, like, over-the-shoulder bag. Like a small one, or like a purse, or like a fanny pack, or something that you can keep on you readily. Something that you can easily protect. Make sure it's thief-proof. Granted, none of us had any issues at all for, you know, like, for most of the trip. But it's when there are crowds where you have to be extra careful. If you can, place your hand over the opening, or not the opening, but like the zipper to your purse, to your pack, whatever you have. Place your hand over that at all times in a crowd. Because you never know who's going to try something and when. Mexico City is cool. I hate to say it, I trust people even less now because of Mexico City. I trust people so much less now. I already didn't trust people to begin with. And that sounds really bad coming from me, but it's not like I'm assuming anything necessarily. It's just I can't properly observe situations when it comes to social interaction of any kind. Whether it's a sleepover, a parade, a party, like anything. I get so nervous just being around people. So if you are going to travel to Mexico City, I implore you to be very careful and to keep your belongings as close as, and to keep as few belongings as possible. As few as possible. You don't want your shit to get jacked. I'm lucky that my phone was the only thing. Like, I still had my ID, my card, my pesos, which, if they took my I wouldn't have even cared if they took my pesos at that point, hell. My passport, because was recommended I actually keep my passport in my purse. But, like, all that stuff? No, that was still in my purse. My phone was the only easily accessible thing that was jacked. Which, you know, thinking about it, I was using my phone a bunch during the parade to take some pictures and videos. I could have theoretically, once the parade was finished, just put it in the zipper pocket within the purse itself. And maybe that could have helped. But at the same point, I also don't know what else would have been jacked if my phone hadn't been taken instead, you know? Because my passport was in that zipper pocket, but theoretically the pesos and my ID and my debit card would have been a little bit more accessible. So, hard to say. But yeah, that was Mexico City. So, again, very cool. But I'm not going back. I don't want to go back ever. Under any circumstances. I'm fine to stay away from Mexico City. And unfortunately, I do trust people a little bit less now. And I know exactly which two putas it was. I know which two bitches stole my phone. I still got that memory in my mind. I still kind of remember what they looked like. And I don't usually remember it this late. But happened, you know, less than a week ago, and I still remember what they look like. So, yeah. Fun stuff. Alright, enough of me rambling about Mexico City. I didn't mean to ramble for so long, but, you know, sometimes shit happens, man. So let's go ahead and segue to other topics, not categories, other topics that I know I need to talk about. Like, for example, Thankmas is going to be coming up in about a month. About a month? Yeah, about a month. Now, granted, I do not know when I'm gonna be like doing any streams, and I also don't know how many. My guess though is I'm probably only gonna do like 2 or 3 streams this year. I'm not gonna do anything crazy like the last couple of years, which, you know, as fun and as cool as they were, took a lot of energy out of me. So I'm probably gonna do 2 or 3 streams this time around, maybe like a weekday stream and a weekend stream, something like that. That's kind of where my mind is going. And I know I posted a video about Thankmas not too long ago, but I've had pretty much no responses from it. So what I'm probably going to do is just use similar community milestones and individual rewards for donations, kind of like last year. Which, you know, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I am a smaller channel, so I suppose I didn't expect too much extra feedback or anything like that. So I guess there really wasn't much to say about Thankmas, because it sounds like I've already kind of sort of made up my mind about some aspects of it. There's still some things I need to figure out, obviously, but man, I just got back from a trip. I just got back from out of the country. I need a little time to still, like, you know, catch up on things and properly process things. Not the trip itself, but, you know, with coming back. And I got videos I still need to prepare for Thankmas. I was hoping to start preparing for those earlier, but things got wacky the last few months. I don't know. Another quick thing, too, is that the family now has a new dog, which I'm not sure if anybody knew, but I don't know. I don't even think he's appeared in a new video recently. I don't think, anyways. But there is a new dog, because my sister's little Chihuahua Min Pin Mix, Brandon, did pass away in July. July? Yeah, July. This was not long after her surgery, I think, or not long before her surgery. Oh shit. I don't even remember now. It was this summer though. It was like the middle of the summer when he passed. And about a month and a half ago, actually no, about a month ago. Yeah, about a month ago, my sister did end up getting a new dog. His name is Ziggy. He is a little over a year old. He's we're not really sure what he is. We think he's some kind of like Shepherd Rottweiler mix, maybe with a couple of other random things in here, but he looks much more mutt than Esmer does. Ain't that right, Mama? Ain't that right, baby girl? She's so cute. She's definitely a cattle dog mix. Ziggy? A little more unclear about it. It's like you can see little bits and pieces of maybe some different breeds, but at the same point it's like, but that could be just about that could be any one of like 5-6 breeds, so who knows. My sister's gonna be doing some kind of DNA test on him eventually, I imagine, because, you know, she got some for me for Esmer. She's gonna do it for her own dog. Why not? Especially if we don't know what he is. He's definitely sweet, but he's definitely young and energetic and still trying to get accustomed to house life. You know, it's a process. It's a process. So, probably something else that I will want to mention as well is that because I've started falling behind a little bit on some video projects, and of course with this Mexico City trip that my sister and I just took, I have decided that I will not be posting any new content in January on YouTube. Now, that's completely different for Patreon. I will still be posting stuff, absolutely. But in terms of posting anything to the public, I have no plans to do anything for January because I need time to kind of recharge and catch back up, because I'm definitely falling behind and I need to not do that. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad what I'm doing with the rotations now is that I have a better idea of, you know, what's going to be coming out during which month. That'll give me much more time to prepare ahead of time, but I also need to make sure that I'm not posting too much, so that I'm not spending too much time on a single month and then scrambling for the next month, kind of like what's happening with November. So like some of the stuff that was supposed to come out in October, I've had to flip some things around between October and November now because of the trip, because I may have been planning too many videos for a single month. So yeah, I have no plans to release any videos in January. That said, I may still do a live stream here and there. You know, I imagine I'll still probably be working on Hades by then. Who knows, maybe even get back into Hollow Knight at some point. I've even considered like doing a patron-only like live stream here and there in January. So those might be the only things coming out in January, if even that. But other than that, I got no plans for January. I need a chance to recharge and recalculate things and to catch back up on stuff. So, it is what it is. And I guess on to, like, you know, all the bunch of random little stuff. I do keep getting stuff about South Park every now and then. So, if you guys do not know, I'm going to give you a quick summary. All my South Park stuff is kind of moved to Patreon. Now, hold on. Let me explain first. It's just easier to keep everything on Patreon right now because it's kind of the best way for me to make some of the money from the content, because I don't on the YouTube front. I can on the Patreon front, and I actually do fairly well on the Patreon front. I might be able to get like 100 a month, give or take, which it's not too much, but honestly something is better than nothing, but it's better than YouTube. I'm lucky to get like $5, maybe $10 a month on YouTube, but you can't actually pay out anything on YouTube unless it's 100 or more. So I haven't seen anything new on, like, you know, I haven't gotten any deposit from Google or YouTube in months. Ever since I had my channel demonetization issue. Ah, crap. Was that already June of last year that I had started having that issue? Oh, fuck. Anyways, back to the South Park stuff real quick. So currently I have seasons... Wait. Hang on. Alright, I had to check to make sure, and turns out I was right. So, currently, seasons 2 through 11, all of those reactions are available on my YouTube channel. Seasons 12 through 14 are currently only on Patreon. That could change in the future. Most likely with Thankmas. Like, if I reach certain milestones, I might be able to release entire new seasons for people, to the public. So that's really all I have planned. And currently I am making my way through watching season 15. I want to say I'm like halfway through season 15. So basically on Patreon right now, there's like 3.5 seasons worth of South Park reactions that are available to watch. So, and again, that's just the method that I'm going to be using for now. Like, I'm not completely barring putting South Park Patreon content onto YouTube. I'm not barring that completely, but I need a reason to do it, and I need a reason to keep as much South Park material on Patreon as possible, because it's part of what kind of helps keep me a little financially afloat on the content creation front, because I can't really make money on YouTube anymore due to, you know, the split channel issue that I'm now having, because and because of that, I can't even monetize my secondary channel either. Like, technically speaking, via my watch hours and my subscribers, I technically could, but via the content itself, because it might not be considered transformative enough, I can't. There's a theoretically I could monetize, but most likely I wouldn't be able to, even if I applied to. So I'm not even going to bother trying to go through an application process there, because it's just going to be a pain in the ass. So I can't really make anything on YouTube. And unfortunately, I'm not really making much on our commissions, so Patreon is really the only thing I can rely on, financially speaking. And it does help. It does help very much. And I know that still can be a bit much for some people. But what I am trying to do as well is to, instead of selling tiers, selling, it's a newer Patreon function, but selling folders of different posts. So like, all the South Park Season 12, 13, and 14 reactions are currently on Patreon, each in their own individual folders. Each folder is available for sale currently for a price lower than what patrons had to, let's see if I can explain this in a better way. So say it took me, so my lowest tier on Patreon is $3 per month, just $3. And that gives you access to all new South Park reactions, to all new Hunter's pages, Hunter's comic pages, because, you know, that's my comic that I've been working on for a while, and, you know, some other little random things from time to time, including the ability to ask for a character sketch once a month. And say it takes me 5 months to watch a single season of episodes. That's $15. Well, what I decided to do was maybe I could price that whole folder of reactions after it finishes out for like $12 instead. So that theoretically you could wait a few months and just get all the reactions, or you could just be a patron for a few months and be able to acquire other benefits from being a patron for that period of time. Does that make sense? Again, I do have to paywall some of my stuff, but some of it is not necessarily permanently paywalled. It's just paywalled for an extended period of time. And this is just the easiest thing for me to do, especially because, you know, I'm not doing much else on my YouTube, on the YouTube front, at least in terms of earnings. So this just makes the most sense for me. I have no plans to change that process anytime soon, and, you know, for the people who can't necessarily pay for that, I completely understand. It's okay. Like, I'm not blaming you or anything, but please just don't complain about it. Like, I'm a content creator. This is just kind of what I have to do. It is what it is. So, like, if you have a problem with it, if you want to complain about it, despite me giving perfectly reasonable explanations as to why I do it, I don't know what to tell you, and I am sorry about that. But it just kind of is what it is. But please, like, if you didn't know, that's one thing. But just stop complaining about it, please. Because, like, I gotta make my earnings somehow on my content creation. I mean, if I can't make enough of my earnings for content creation, there's really no point in me continuing it. Or if I do, I would have to paywall pretty much everything. And I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. Like, I still want to give people some amount of content. But, like, you know, there's just kind of got to be a reason for it, because YouTube does take a lot out of my time. And what also takes a lot out of my time is my comic, which, funny enough, I've employed a completely new process with how I'm coming out with these comic pages, which, funny enough, is actually turning out to be much more efficient than my previous method. Even though theoretically it wouldn't seem like it'd be more, you know, it wouldn't seem like it'd be more efficient, and yet it really is. So a couple months ago, I switched from releasing a new comic page every 2 weeks to 3 times a month, which does slightly increase the frequency. Instead of, you know, every 14 days, it's pretty much every, like, 10 days that I release a new page. I kind of like that method. I will say that. But the new process that I've employed in order to create these comic pages is to, you know, say I'm working on the final color for one page. Well, after I finish that, then I'm going to work on the character color for the next page. And then after I finish with that, I'm going to work on the outline for the following page, and then the draft for the following page, so on and so forth. And the process just repeats over and over again. So I'll essentially be working on like 5 or 6 pages at once at all times. And that kind of sounds crazy, but again, for some reason, it does feel more efficient that way. And not to mention that it does give me a better sense of, okay, what is happening in the story, what's supposed to happen, does this flow correctly? It allows me to get a bigger picture of what I'm currently working on, and I really like that. I really do like that. And of course, not to mention, I've just got all kinds of other little random art projects. Like, I posted a picture not too long ago on my Blue Sky and like in my Discord server and stuff like that, but I have like probably like 15 active projects right now, not including comic pages. I'll just work on little bits at a time, just here and there, because, you know, that's just kind of how I do things. And all these projects will eventually get finished, you know, unless I die or something like that. But don't mind me getting morbid. Sometimes it happens. But yeah, I've always got so many active projects at once. Another one of my projects is actually, funny enough, another comic. But it's a very different kind of comic. It's a much simpler comic because it's not really telling a fully fledged story. I'm actually starting to work on a slice of life comic. It's gonna be called Nothing Utter the Ordinary. That was not my brainchild, that was the brainchild of a community member, but I loved it so much, I'm like, please let me use this. So I did. Because I thought the title was great. Basically, it's you know, think of, you know, like, something like, My Giant Nerd Boyfriend. Like, I don't know if any of you have read that. Great slice of life. I mean, similar kind of to, like, Pixie and Brutus, even. But, you know, obviously, almost like a mix of the two. Because I can't draw people, but I can draw animals and anthros. More or less. So, what I'm basically doing is creating a slice of life comic that is based on the lives of, like, you know, me and my family and my coworkers, but we're all animals instead. So I already do have four episodes that are fully drawn. I'm still trying to, like, digitally finagle around with 2 of them, but it's just a quick pencil style. It's really simple and easy. And I do hope to actually, you know, post it and make something a little bit more out of it, because, I don't know, like, for some reason, I never thought I'd get into the slice of life comic genre, and yet, I'm not completely opposed to it. And if you think about it, I still do have a lot of random happenings in my life that could be interesting to some people. You know, just, again, completely random stuff, from work stuff to game stuff, to actual conversations I've had with the people around me. I already have ideas for like 8-9 episodes in total. Well, maybe even 10, something like that. But I'm very excited about that, and I do hope that, you know, it's something that people could be a little bit interested in. I don't know for sure. We'll see. Man, I can't think of anything else to say, but I probably should stop it here because I've been rambling for way too long. These vlogs should not be taking this long. The damn Mexico City trip took up like 2/3 or like 3/4 of this whole frickin' video. God damn. But hey, you know, there were a lot of happenings in Mexico City, both good and bad, and I had to rant and ramble about it at some point because I haven't yet, and part of it is I didn't want to for a while. But I kind of knew I had to get it out of my system at the very least, and, you know, let everybody know, hey, here's what's going on. So, there you have it. I've got nothing else to say, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to end this vlog here, and huge thanks to all the Patreons, I keep doing that every time. Huge thanks to all the patrons who currently support me, who have supported me in the past. Your guys' support does mean a lot to me. It is very valuable to me because, you know, like I said, Patreon is really the only place where I can earn right now because I'm not really doing it via commissions and I'm not really doing it via YouTube. So I kind of have to do it via Patreon, and your guys' support is hugely helpful. I do very much appreciate it, and I wouldn't be sad to see any more patrons pop up. So, because I mean, if you think about it, even low-level patrons have the ability to help me choose what videos are released every month. They can view exclusive access, like early access to Hunter's comic pages and exclusive access to South Park reactions, sometimes months or years in advance of anybody else. You know, the ability to request a character sketch, like, there's so many things that you can do even at the lowest tier. And the benefits only just continue to grow from there. And, you know, I've worked hard to make sure that these benefits are, you know, valuable for people. To the point where I had to add a 4th tier eventually. so I did. So anyways, I literally have nothing else. I will stop right there. Again, thank you patrons very much. Your support is very much appreciated. And I'm gonna get some water because my throat hurts from talking so much. Yes, talking almost nonstop for an hour, that does hurt my throat. That doesn't feel good. So thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and as usual, until the next video, guys, check you later.